guys. How are you? Hope all is well your way. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are Vacay Mode Travels. That is Sarah. I am Alden. Today we have a good one. We are talking about how to choose the perfect destination wedding location.
And this can be a tricky topic, and this is one of the most common things we hear from destination wedding couples looking to plan a Mexico wedding is, how do we know which destination and resort are right for us? There are thousands of resorts out there, and they all look beautiful online. They all have these perfectly polished photos that show everything is so perfect. How do you know what the actual vibe and feel is like at each of these resorts, and how do we know that it's right for us?
Yes. Like Sarah said, there's so many to choose from, and they're always ever changing too. They might change ownership, they might have renovations, new staff, and the vibe is completely different. And so you want to take that into consideration when choosing the right one. Like Sarah said, they're beautiful online, but how are they in person? We're going to dig into what to look for when choosing the right location.
Yes, so the first thing you want to consider when you're planning a destination wedding is, what do you want the wedding vibe to feel like? Do you want something casual? Do you want something elevated? Do you want an adults-only celebration? Do you plan on inviting kids? Do you envision a beach ceremony, a rooftop venue, a garden, a cliffside venue? Do you want your ceremony to be at sunset? These are all things that you want to consider when you're picking out your destination wedding location and resort, because not all destinations and not all resorts are created equal. So a couple of examples for that would be, modern and stylish couples are probably going to gravitate towards more of a chic contemporary design with elevated amenities. You might have couples that want a lush romance and dramatic scenery. They might gravitate more towards like St. Lucia or Hawaii or Puerto Vallarta. If you're envisioning more of a laid-back beach party, Punta Cana, Cabo can offer some great options. But your vibe really sets the direction of where we look for that perfect fit.
And not just the vibe for the actual wedding day, but keep in mind, your guests are going to be staying there 3-4 days. This is a little mini vacation for them. What kind of vibe do you want for your guests to have? Not all adults-only resorts are the same. Some are more active than others. Family-friendly resorts doesn't mean there's just going to be kids and kid activities scattered throughout. Some are very adult-focused too. So you maybe just want a resort that accommodates family, but is still adult-oriented. There are resorts out there like that. The second thing you want to consider is think about your guests and their comfort level. Logistically, remember, it's not just you got to get all your guests from point A to point B, and what does that process look like? Is it going to run seamless? A few things you want to consider is, where are guests flying from? Are a lot of your family in the Midwest, West Coast, East Coast? If you're coming from the West Coast to Cancun, you're going to have a 4-hour flight with or without some kind of layover, and then from there you're going to have at least 30-minute, maybe an hour drive. So logistically, what does that look like? If you want to make it as seamless as possible, you may want to if you're on the West Coast, stick to the Pacific side. Cabo, Puerto Vallarta. If you're on the East Coast, maybe Caribbean or Cancun International, somewhere in the Yucatan there. So think about the logistics as far as what that's going to look like for your family. And then also, like we said before, adults only, family friendly. How many people are you going to expect to attend? How important is affordability for your guests? That can dictate which, where you're going to be going, because you do want to consider the flights, the transfers to and from, and then whether or not it's all inclusive.
Yes, once we've kind of narrowed down the vibe and you've really thought about the guest complexity with travel, the next thing you want to do is take into account the weather considerations. So, Mexico is a big country, and how the weather is on the West Coast is not the same as the Caribbean coast. So you do want to consider those. What are the rainy months? When is hurricane season? What are the months that have higher heat and humidity? Seasonal closures. Some resorts in the Caribbean close during certain parts of the year for a couple of weeks. Peak travel weeks that can increase the room prices. So just to give a few examples here, February is absolutely beautiful in Mexico and the Caribbean. June is great in Cabo, but it's very humid in Cancun. November is warm and stunning in Aruba, but Hawaii could be getting rain. So you want to really take into account the weather. There are some pros and cons to doing shoulder season, as far as cost goes. and just overall access to everything. But consider the weather, the time of year, because that is a big factor, and you really want to make sure that you have a good plan B if you're going to roll the dice on shoulder season near the rainy season or hurricanes, because you may need to implement your plan B. So make sure that when you're picking your resort and venue that you're happy with the plan B options if you are going to be close to those seasons.
Yep, and we empathize with people because, you know, they approach us and they say, hey, June, July, August is great. Kids are out of school. My nieces and nephews are available. People have time off. That's when we want to have it. But again, it's just not, it's not that you can't have it in a place like Mexico or the Caribbean. It's just, it's going to be hot as all hell. And although you might live in a cooler weather climate now, you're going to want to consider that because it's just going to be almost unbearable or uncomfortable. And like Sarah said, there's a good chance of rain, so you do want to consider your plan B options for that. So let's move on to number 4. Deciding whether you want an all-inclusive or not. That's really one of the first questions we're going to try to get from you is what do you want that to be all-inclusive or not? And it kind of can narrow down the resorts from there. This is a great because guests can know the full cost up front if it is all-inclusive, meals and drinks, entertainment, everything is included. They're going to know what that cost is going to be for their entire trip. And you say, well, maybe it's going to be more cost effective to not do all-inclusive. Not necessarily, because if you consider all the time costs transferring off resort to food spots, if there aren't any or only one on site, that's a cost. And it's just going to add up over time. It just may not be worth the cost to not have an all-inclusive, especially if you get into somewhere like a boutique hotel, private villas. Non-all-inclusive resorts are great, and there's some beautiful ones out there, but those costs can add up because you got to consider all meals throughout the day. Entertainment might not be as good when you get to a non-all-inclusive resort. So there is no wrong answer. If you are looking, for something like that, and that is your vision, happy to look at those options for you.
Yes, and we have a lot of couples really debate that. They really look at both options. A lot of people are really drawn to the idea of doing an off-site venue, but then when they see the increased logistics and cost, not only for their guests, but also for their wedding day, many couples often opt to go the all-inclusive route. And there are smaller all-inclusive resorts, not necessarily the big chain resorts. There are some that are more wellness focused, and there's all different types of all-inclusive resorts. They're not all, 1,000-room high-rise in the middle of Cancun. So there's plenty of different types.
And not all are cookie cutter. These newer resorts have really done a great job of listening to what large groups are looking for. And what most couples are looking for is they want variety of good food so they can try somewhere new every day throughout their stay, and just have quality of food be the main focus for that.
Yes. The 5th point we want to talk about is considering your budget early on. And the budget breaks down into several different categories. You have your wedding budget needs to be one consideration. And this is where you really want to make sure that you're hiring a certified destination wedding specialist that understands the cost of the wedding side, not just a travel agent who books wedding groups, because they may not be familiar with the resort's wedding packages and may not take into account all of the extra things that could add up, pushing you beyond your limit. So you want to consider, first of all, your wedding budget, but you also want to consider the travel budget, and the travel budget for you, but also for your guests. What do you want that budget to look like for your guests? What is realistic for your friends and family and is going to allow them to be able to attend your celebration? But also not sacrificing your experience, because your wedding, if you decide to stay at the same resort, will also double as your honeymoon. So we want to make sure that we're meeting that vision for both celebrations and exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah. And we're happy to discuss that with you. I mean, that's just the reality of destination weddings, and we appreciate that couples really take into consideration what the costs are going to be for their friends and family. But like Sarah said, there is a certain price point with some of these places that once you get below a certain price point, you might be sacrificing service, certain venues, and just overall experience. So something to consider, and happy to discuss that with you. Number 6, picture the experience you want for your guests. That's really the big picture. Is one of the things we ask all our couples is, besides the actual wedding day, and that is the purpose of all of this, what kind of experience do you want for your family and friends? Do you want very simple beach access? Do you want things to be, a lot of activities to be going on, good nightlife? Maybe you want to be close to things off-site. If you're going to plan a group day like a snorkel trip or a catamaran day, is that important to you? Do things need to be going on? Activities need to be going on all throughout the day? Or do you want more of a quiet, upscale environment, very low key, just have a pool available, food and drinks available, and people can, just lounge and enjoy some quiet time? So it really comes down to the experience, and it really blends into this last thought is ask yourself, how do you want the week to feel? One of the questions we ask is, what's going to make your destination wedding a success? And a lot of our couples say is, I want our family and friends, besides our wedding today, have a great, relaxing experience with good service, variety of food, and just make some memories together. So you want that to be romantic and intimate, more lively and social, luxury and elevated, or very simple, easy, stress-free. Give me a beach and a pool and we'll be happy. It's up to you.
Yes, and every couple and their family is so unique and special, which is why we really do like to start this process out by spending some time getting to know you, asking you a lot of these questions so we can understand exactly what you're looking for before we match you to the perfect destination and resort and wedding venue. Now, if you decide to DIY this process on your own, we've gone through 7 points that we would recommend starting with. Really wrap your head around those. Get clear on your vision before you start diving into resorts and destinations, because like I said, there are endless options available to you out there, and you really do want somebody that knows these properties well, that knows the destinations well, and can guide you to ensure that your experience matches your vision and that you're not just picking something off of Google or somebody's, some TikToker's top 10 list. You really want this to be a personalized decision.
Yes.
So
you can find more information at govacamotravels.com. If you're considering a destination wedding in 2026, reach out to us sooner than later. Those dates are filling up fast. We have a lot of couples already reserving into 2027 as well, and we hope to talk to you soon.
yes, schedule a complimentary consultation. We'd love to get to know you more.
Safe travels.